Hey, everybody. It is great to see you. Welcome to our Monday live broadcast. My name is Melody McAllister, and I am here with the wonderful EdTech. I feel like I want to call you the EdTech matchmaker. The wonderful, I always try new names to call Rachelle every single time. And that's today. She's the matchmaker. So I am here with my wonderful friend, and we have a show coming up with the incredible Dr. Katie Martin and about her new book. Uh, Evolving Education. I keep mixing that
Mhm.
up with educator, but education. And we will talk with her very soon. And also I dropped the link if you want to play rapid fire with us at the end of our show. I dropped the link in our community, and we would love to have you on. But Rachelle, it has been crazy weekend, and I am glad to see you today. Tell us what's going on with you.
Uh, Nothing. I've lost my voice a little bit, as you can tell. So I got that back to school Monday. The day flew by. It was crazy how fast it went. And no, that was it. It was a good weekend. Got to see a friend I haven't seen in a really long time, like a couple of years. So that was nice. And yeah, that's it. Just full week, not quite as busy as last week. And actually, part of the reason I lost my voice is we had open house last Wednesday. And so just from all the talking in school and then Wednesday night with parents and then Thursday, Friday, and then talking at a restaurant a little bit loud. So I got this voice. The kids at school were like, "What's wrong with your voice?" And I said, I was karaoke. I said, I did karaoke all weekend. And they were like, "Really?" I'm
Did
like,
you?
No, no, no,
Oh,
not at all. Not at all." So
oh my gosh, that sounds like
yeah.
a dream weekend, karaoke all weekend.
For
I'm there for
you,
that.
anybody hearing me singing,
Yeah.
that's a nightmare, so
It's funny that you say that, and it's not a nightmare because I have heard you sing, and that's a lie. But so my little 3-year-old, he sings all the time, and he was just going crazy at lunch today. And I told my husband, I'm like, that was me when I used to sing. I would sing all like, and in my mind, I would hear the instruments, and I would be like in a concert, and it was just like that was it for me, and I did it all the time. And he goes, "Why didn't you go into entertainment?" And I
mhm.
said, "I did. I became a teacher." So
It's
it's like,
true because we are in the business of entertainment, edutainment, whatever you wanna call it, right?
yeah, I mean, I love to laugh with my kids. And in fact, when we are talking about, education, we have an amazing guest. Do you want to? I know I'm going to try to limit your talking to preserve your wonderful vocal cords, but do you want to introduce our guest today?
Yeah, it's and limit everybody from having to listen to my voice today, but yes, our guest is Dr. Katie Martin, and I got to meet Katie a couple of years ago. I guess it was actually 2 years ago in July because we were part of a group that went to Boston to work on an Education Right Now at Volume 3 and spent a couple of days together each writing a chapter for that book, and it was an awesome experience. Got to hang out and see each other, and just I've always loved the work that she does. I get excited when I see her new blogs come out. Her book is like one of like it's right here, Learner-Centered Innovation. My words even came out. Her latest is right here, so super excited, and she does so much beyond that. But and I heard she's coming to Pennsylvania at some point too. So
Soon.
yeah, yeah. So anyway, thank you for joining us today. And now I will kick it over to Mel to rest the vocals for a second.
Yes, I'm so glad that. Thank you for doing that, Rochelle. And so, Dr. Katie Martin, we are so glad you're here today. For those who may not be as familiar with your work, tell us a little bit about your background.
Great. Well, thanks for having me, Rochelle. Again, it's so nice to be here and all to meet you. My background at my core, I'm a middle school teacher. I taught 7th to 8th grade language arts. I loved it. Didn't plan on doing anything else. I became a literacy coach just because there was an opportunity and it felt like that was a good place to grow. I ran our new teacher mentoring program. And at the same time that I was working in schools and in our district, I was getting my master's and PhD in curriculum and instruction. And so I've had this affinity for researching what's happening in schools and then really thinking about what's happening in schools, how we can put those ideas into practice and what we're learning from research. So I've spent the last 10 years working at the university, working as a consultant and supporting schools to shift to learner-centered practices. And I'm the Chief Impact Officer at Learner Centered Collaborative. And we get to work with partners all over the country. And it's amazing. And I'm a mom of 2
Um,
middle schoolers too. So I'm getting my payback now and having to use all my middle school training.
Yes, you are. And our oldest, we just found out before we went live, our two oldest are a day apart and their birthdays. So that is so cool. Tell us a little bit more about Learner Center. Like, what can people find when they go here?
Yeah, so learnercenter.org, you will find our amazing team that works with schools and districts around the country. You will find a little bit about our approach. I'll talk more about a little bit about that today, but you'll find how we collaborate with educators and resources and workshops we have, how we collaborate with schools and districts and state partnerships as well. You'll find resources, blogs, you'll find lots of good stuff that we're hoping. We really just want it to be a place where people can come and learn, and hopefully we want to build more of the community too, like you guys have done. That's our goal as we grow.
Oh, I love that. Whenever people want to talk about community. Yes, I love that. And so congratulations on your newest book, Evolving Education. And Rachelle, do you mind holding that beautiful cover up? That is just beautiful. I love it. Tell us a little bit about your book and what does it mean? Oh, go ahead.
I just noticed I'm totally matching.
I love it.
I may or may not have done that on purpose. I didn't do that.
I appreciate the support. I wore mine too, so we're matching. It's good stuff.
Oh,
sorry,
I love
what
that.
was the question?
No, I love it. I actually do sometimes on my book chat. I try to like match my books, so I support that 100%, honestly. But tell us a little bit about your book and what does it mean or look like to be learner centered?
Yeah, great question. For me, it really begins with if we're learner centered, we start with learners. Too often in schools, we're focused on standardized procedures. We're focused on the test. We're focused on getting through the curriculum. And as we start to look at what we want for students and looking at those outcomes, the best educators backwards design. So I think that, if we're learner centered, we start with those outcomes that we want for students that go beyond the narrow metrics of a math test, a reading test, or a standardized score, and really think about the whole child and, critical thinking, problem solving, joy, persistence, perseverance, those things, getting really clear about what it is we want for kids in our systems. And then if we are clear about that, then we can design learning experiences that align. We can think about the conditions we need to put in place. But I just find that when we actually are clear about what we want for kids, the alignment becomes so much easier and the work gets so much clearer. So to me, that's what it means to be learner centered.
Yeah. Do you feel like, given the situation of the world right now, that we might have, it might have laid the foundation for right now to pursue that, whereas it may have been harder, pre-pandemic? What are your thoughts surrounding that?
I mean, there's educators who have been learner centered from the beginning, right? This is not, oh my gosh, a new thing. It is, relationships. It's about understanding each individual child, their strengths, their opportunities. But school often is at odds with that. So there's a lot of educators who have been learner centered. As we've kind of grown through the pandemic and a lot of our norms have been shifted, we've started to see, there's a lot more need to be flexible. We've learned opportunities to connect digitally. We've learned about prioritizing standards, resources, things that matter most. So I think that we've had an opportunity. You hear people say like, don't let a problem go to waste. This is definitely a problem that we have been able to leverage to think about practices differently. So I'm constantly encouraging people. Arundhati Roy has a beautiful quote that I probably won't get exactly right, but she says, the pandemic is a portal and it's an opportunity to think about what we want to leave behind and what we want to bring forward with us. And so as we look forward, we have to think about what is it that we want? What are the things that are working? And what are the things that we can take with us? And what are the things we need to leave behind? There's many practices that aren't serving kids, that aren't serving educators, that we could leave behind and really focus on the things like connection, authentic learning, agency, relationships that matter so much more.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes I feel like if we use the words new normal, that it kind of scares, it upsets people. And, but this has been a long time coming. It's just, and was it your blog I read, or it was a tweet I read? Maybe it kind of went along with what I read about your latest blog. And I'm going to drop that in just a second. But it talked about how sometimes it feels like our school system. Oh, I wish I could remember who tweeted it. But it says that sometimes it feels like our school systems are preparing our students for what it was like 30 years ago to work, not
Yep.
what it's going to be like 30 years from now. And I just felt like that kind of connect. And I think a lot of people are saying, we're ready, we're ready. It's just,
Yep.
what do you think is the biggest struggle that why we haven't gone that direction?
Well, the status quo is powerful. And so even though many people think we know how we learn best, research is there, our own experiences tell us how we learn best, but the systems that have been in place for 100 years have been in place for standardization, for compliance, for just moving through the tasks. And it's hard to change those, even if we want to and have the best of intentions. We're constantly fighting up against norms and the way that things have always been. And so that's why I say evolving, because it is not going to be just flip the switch and we can change everything. We have to really think about what's working. And when you deeply reflect on what's working, we're really clear about what things we want to keep. And when we realize what's not working, we leave those behind. So the evolution is not throwing everything out. It's building upon what works so that we can actually use that to move forward. And you're right, it's been a long time coming. And there's so many great examples of really shifting those practices. Of course, Rachelle's a fabulous example of the things that she always does and is sharing and tweeting. And there's so many educators who are, but we need to connect more, right? Even as much as, the more we can connect and learn from each other, the more we can normalize these new practices, because our own experiences are so ingrained in how we design school. And I say all the time, if we don't create something new for educators, how can we expect them to create something new for their students? We create what we experience. Mm-hmm. And so that means professional learning has to change. You can't sit teachers in a room and tell them for hours to do something different for kids if they don't have different experiences themselves.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more. And just all of the culture stuff that just trickles down with that. So yes, Rachelle, did you want to say something? I'm sorry.
No, it goes back a while, but just listening to Katie talk, but I don't get to hear her talk all the time, but reading her blogs, like every time she comes out with a new blog and then reading her book, of course I had a chance to read the book before anybody else did. So that was awesome. But I always think to myself, like, why can't I write like that? Like, why don't I think like that? Just some of the different things, like, I don't know, we have our own unique, like, take on things, but I just love reading what Katie shares, whether it's through blog or whether it's in books, because it really does focus on things that I wish I knew years ago to focus on, especially when I read her first book, The Learner-Centered, I can't say it, it's the voice. I'm going to say LCI, LCI. And I pulled even some quotes from there that just, and you know me with quotes, like I love some of the quotes that really pushed me to think and look at my practice as an educator differently. Also my practice as like a learner in the classroom with my students, because for so long it was always like, I'm the teacher, you're the student. I'm sure I'm learning things, but I need to know all the answers. And then whenever, you make that shift and then you start to involve students more and they see their value in the classroom and I don't know, I keep going on and on, but I'm not going to, but I loved your first book. But then of course I loved reading your newest, The Evolving Education, just because, again, like, pushes me to think and reflect on what I'm doing, but also to realize, like, that if I've made mistakes or if I missed out opportunities, like, it's okay, because now I'm aware of them. Now I can do something differently. So anyway, that's all that Rachelle was going to say. And with that, she's going to rest her vocal cords.
No, Rachelle, I love that. And it's just, it's a good reminder, right? You can't beat yourself up because you didn't do something differently. Like, we're always growing. We're always learning new practices, but that's the paradigm shift, right? So it's evolving education because we're constantly growing to align with the world that we live in, not the one 30 years ago. Our world has changed and the way we teach needs to change, but it's a paradigm shift too. It's not just new tools. It's not like fancy seating and arrangements. Those things are cool. But if you don't see learners as capable and you don't see them as, coming to the, seeing their whole selves and seeing that as important, and you don't see the importance of connection, then we're not going to get anywhere, right? We don't stop at connection and relationships, but if we don't build that as the foundation and let people show up as who they are and see themselves as full of possibility, then we aren't going to make those strides that we need to in education. So the paradigm shift is really about how we see our role, like Renee was just talking about, or Rachelle was just talking about. If it's how we see learners, it's how we see the role of education. Something I share all the time, building on this, is the Gallup poll. And Scott McLeod has a great graphic, but it shows students' engagement declining. The more they're in school, their engagement goes down. And if we flip that graph, I mean, just imagine if you spent your days doing something you feel successful in, something that's fun, and doing things that matter to you and others. If we spent our days in schools doing that, we would build skills, we would build capacity, we would build confidence, and we would develop people who are needed in the world right now to solve all the problems that exist. Instead of, saying like, you have to do this, follow in line, follow this path. There's just so many opportunities, I think, to really open up what we do in our classrooms to create more engaged citizens, to create more engaged educators and more engaged students and families.
And it's like, and I love that. And I love that you just mentioned families, but it's like telling our young people, like, hey, you don't have to wait to grow up to like contribute to what is going on in the world. You can do it now. And a lot of times, and I think you talked about it in your blog about how we're so focused on memorization, which is the killer. But I love that. So if somebody is wanting to go towards this new normal or a more learner centered classroom, what are the first steps that they can take? What would you suggest?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to sound so simple and so silly, but you got to talk to learners. So often we make assumptions about what people need. We think like, oh, I'm designing this and this is going to be more engaging, without actually talking to students. So bring them in, have conversations, ask them what's working, ask them what's not working, find out if they have ideas about what they can do better. They always do. So first step is just like being vulnerable enough to ask kids for feedback. And then actually acting on it. So there's small steps you can take. So that's first, I would say, definitely just like listening to learners. Secondly, just figuring out who the learners are in your class. I'm like advocating everywhere I can for a learner profile. I wrote about it in the first chapter, but if you can ask kids what they care about, what they like to do, what their strengths are, what questions they're interested in solving, these types of things will bring in kids to the classroom and then create space for them to talk about it, to talk with their peers about who they are. I've been doing this a lot more with educators to model it. And they always are like, this was the best. I got to talk with my colleagues. I got to spend time getting to know them better. Now I feel so much closer to them. I can't wait to do this with my students. So I think if we're going to honor the kids and create a space where they feel seen in school, we have to talk to them. We have to ask for their feedback. We have to use it. And we have to allow them to bring their whole selves to school and build on it. So those are my first two steps.
Yeah, I think it's great. And, and we can't say enough about, what is being done from administration down is always going to be reflected in what teachers with students is doing, except for the kind of people that can break through that. A lot of times, if it's a toxic environment, there's always people that are doing, something different. But a lot of times when the culture is, just well, and we've talked about this, a lot of us have talked about this for a long time, but when the culture it allows for no choice in teaching or no, like agency as a professional who knows their own. Yeah, I love that. So we do need to change it. And you said earlier, like the backwards, forwards. So find out what you already know that works and move, have that in mind as you're creating this new environment.
Yeah.
And it's not new for everybody. You said a lot of people are doing a lot of these things.
Yeah. So reach out, find examples. But I would also say this may not be the most popular. Teachers have way more agency and choice in their classroom than they often give themselves credit for, right? Like the way you talk to kids, it doesn't have to be a mandate from an administrator. You can welcome them into your classroom. You can tell them you believe in them. You can set high expectations. You can tell them you noticed how they helped someone. Like, those things aren't in the curriculum. Those things aren't mandates. Though how you treat kids is a huge step forward. And I know it matters more when you get it from the administration and when that's supported, but we can do a lot more in our classrooms than we often think we can.
Definitely. When you have this message, do you get a lot of pushback? And if you do get pushback, what is it usually like? What do they say?
Yeah, I don't get as much pushback often because like I said, I start with, what do we want for kids? And if we really want, no one ever says, gosh, I really just want them to pass that test. Every time I say, like, what do we want for students? They're like, I want them to be happy. I want them to, know how to navigate life. I want them to be a problem solver and critical thinker. So once we get clear on that, it's like the pushback is not the outcome. The pushback is, how do I do it? What are the steps I can take, right? And so that's what I really tried in this book to think through. Great, we got to shift the mindset. Now, what are those like key practices that we can actually leverage? And some of it's just, how do you do small group instruction? How do you connect with the community? How can you do more authentic projects? And there's small tweaks, right? It's not all of a sudden I have to change everything, but this ability to evolve our practices is constantly looking for that next step and figuring out where there's an opportunity to change, especially if you get feedback from kids, they'll give you lots of ideas.
Yeah, I love it. All right. Well, we have reached the point in our show where it can get a little bit more lighthearted, folks. So if you've stuck around with us, and I forgot I need to sometimes I forget to make when we go live, it takes from my personal Facebook, it makes it private. And so I'm wondering if people have been commenting and I haven't seen it. But I didn't want to look at my phone while we were talking. But I do want to say I dropped the link. If you want to join our rapid fire game, I dropped the link and we would love to have you, whether you come when we start or just hop on and we'll pull you right up. But are you okay if I start getting personal and asking you some rapid fire questions, Dr. Kinney? I love it. Let's do this. Okay. And Rachelle, as your voice lends itself, I hope you will answer, but no pressure. Okay.
Okay.
All right. My first, and we say rapid fire, but honestly, you can take a few seconds. It doesn't have to be like super, super quick. And if it's an offensive question, let me know. So what is your favorite flower?
Ooh,
we'll start easy.
Gerber daisy.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Me too. Love those.
I like them in sunset colors, like a red, orange, yellow.
Yep. Totally.
Beautiful. I'm gonna say roses, but if anybody cared. Okay. What is can I ask this, Rachelle? What is your favorite alcoholic beverage? We're adults here. Can I ask that?
I think you know the answer to that question for me.
I love a good wine. I do. Red wine. Cabernet.
Yeah.
Mine's called either a yeehaw or a cowboy.
It's not a cosmopolitan.
Here. No, it used to. I mean, like a home thing, yeah. But then they couldn't make them, so I was ordering some last year. But the Nashville drink that I got, everybody, I'm like, you gotta get this. There's a place here that now makes it, and I told him what's in it, and now it's just called the Nashville in North Huntington. So
look at you. Look at you setting some trends where you are. I love it.
I wouldn't go that far, but.
Okay. All right. Who is your favorite actor and actress?
Oh.
You
might have to go first. I don't know.
I do like Mark Wahlberg.
Ooh, he's some eye candy. Did I say that out
loud? You said that out loud.
And I like for comedies, like I like Jennifer Aniston because I think she's just funny, and I like Scarlett Johansson, whatever.
Yeah. Yep.
Any movies where like the lead is like just they're tough, like tough or funny. And there was who else? There was somebody else I was thinking about too. Oh, I can't think.
My mind is blank. I don't even know. Like somebody makes me laugh.
Yes, I was gonna say I used to love Jim Carrey when I was younger. He was my oh, I loved him so much. But he's not like that anymore. He's more like serious, and he doesn't even
Oh,
think that we're really here. So
Yeah.
I'm not
I know
sure
an
that he's my
actor.
favorite.
Yeah, I know an actor I can't stand.
Oh,
who's
go
that?
ahead. Who is it?
Nicolas Cage drives me crazy. Anything he's in, I cannot watch.
Yeah. Oh, every time I think of him, all I think of is Con Air. Why couldn't you just put the bunny back in the box? Just like
I just
very few. I did think of another
I
actor
always
I
think
like.
of
Oh no, go ahead.
yes. No, I just think of Nicolas Cage on SNL whenever they're like, oh yeah, and they just talk really. They make him have a huge forehead. I'm sorry, but go ahead. Who is
No,
another favorite actor?
I was thinking of Eddie Murphy, just like earlier, like the Beverly Hills Cop movies, they're on all the time. And just his laugh in those movies and just the shenanigans he got up to with like Judge Reinhold and so forth. I mean, that goes way back, but it's on reruns all the time. And so I crack up just listening to his laugh. But he's just been in so many different movies, like Dr. Dolittle, and he's so talented and Coming to America,
Mhm.
which of course, just came back not that long ago. But I do appreciate his humor. So
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Next. Okay. You know what? You just made. And I'm not even going to go there. I'm going to stick to my
okay,
questions because I'm going to get in trouble if I go there. Okay. If
okay.
you could live anywhere in the world, where would that be? Anywhere.
Nashville.
I need
Uh,
a Vegas.
I do have to say, I love it. I love Nashville, my second home. I spend a lot of time there. But I love San Diego. It'd be hard
Mm.
to find another place. My family's favorite place in the world, though, is Railay Bay in Thailand. It's a great
Oh,
place to vacation in the middle of nowhere. And I
yeah.
could stay there for a long time, but I don't know if I could live there forever.
And Katie, where did you go this summer? You were in Egypt, right?
We were in Egypt. Yeah.
Those pictures, unbelievable. Like just,
Yeah. It was pretty awesome.
I bet your kids were like, I would never survive. I'd be like, I'm so hot, I'm going back to the hotel. That you were all out, and it was just, I loved looking at your pictures and just absolutely beautiful. And I knew you had been in Thailand before too.
Yeah, Egypt was an experience. It was a place I've wanted to go to forever. It's been on my bucket list. And so it was very cool having a fifth grader or a sixth grader and a seventh grader that's like right in the realm of what they're studying. It was very cool to go there.
Yeah,
Highly
that's awesome.
recommend.
What did they think?
They loved it. They loved it. Like you could get so up close to everything. You could touch all the hieroglyphics and being on the Nile. My daughter did this like stop motion video, like, over a couple hours on the Nile River. It was a pretty cool
Ooh,
experience.
that is really cool.
Mhm.
Okay. What is something I'm just going off the list because I just made up a new question in my mind that I think is better. What is something you memorized as a child that you will never forget?
The Great Lakes.
This is going to be really bad if I can't say it. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. I think
That too.
now I even forget.
I would
I
have to
asked someone to
say,
spell it
and
when I
this
was
is
3.
I know I have always been like trying to spell that correctly, and it's a long word, but I would say 369. The goose drank wine. The monkey chewed tobacco on a streetcar line. The line broke and the monkey got choked, and they all went to heaven in a little rowboat. Do you remember that, guys?
I was absent that day.
Me too.
Okay. All right. Well, it has been so much fun, and maybe next time some other people will join us for rapid fire. But Dr. Katie Martin, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it that you came. Do you have any last words that you'd like to share before we say goodbye?
I just want to say thank you to both of you for creating this space, and thank you to the community. There's a lot going on in education right now, and it can be hard, but there is definitely an opportunity if we lean into it. So lean in. Thank you, and appreciate the opportunity.
And get the
Thank you.
book.
Yes, get our book. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you on Friday.